Now, let me invite my colleague. We were together in the Senate. You are the minority leader. Now, my colleague as governor of Siaya, who will stand in on behalf of our chair of the Urban Committee, Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, who is away on business, on work issues, and also stand in for our chair of COG, Madam Anne Waiguru. So karibu sana, Your Excellency Mheshimiwa James Orengo. I hear them calling you the walking constitution. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Susan. I wear three hats. One on behalf of the chair of the Council of Governors, and one the hat of the chair of the committee, our Lands, Housing and Urban Development Committee, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, and another hat as a member of the committee. Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Cabinet Secretary Honorable Mwangi Njeru, Cabinet Secretary Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, Mr. Charles Hinga Mwaura, the Principal Secretary, State Department of Housing and Urban Development, Your Excellency, Honorable Susan Kihika, who is our host governor, Honorable Senator Tabitha Karanja, Honorable Jane Kihara, and other members of parliament and senators who are here, Your Excellency, Madam Maimuna Sharif, the Executive Director of the UN Habitat, and the delegation from the World Bank. As I continue, it will not be James Orengo. This is the speech I'm reading on behalf of the chair, Her Excellency, Madam Anne Waiguru. Allow me first to begin by expressing my most sincere gratitude to be part of this first urban forum. This demonstrates the enormous and growing importance of the urban areas for development. The theme chosen for the conference, namely Strategic Pathways to Inclusive and Sustainable Urbanization in Kenya, is very important and timely, especially since it comes at a time when we just hosted the United Nations Habitat Assembly under the theme of a sustainable urban future through inclusive and effective multilateralism, achieving the sustainable development goals in terms of global crises. Your Excellency, over the years, concern about urban sustainability has received more attention in the global development discussion. At the center of this discussion is the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly number 11, which is sustainable cities and communities, whose mission is to make, and I quote, make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable, and the new urban agenda. The Sustainable Development Goal number 11 and the new urban agenda represents a shift in international development cooperation from a focus on poverty as a rural phenomenon to recognizing that cities, especially in the global south, are facing major challenges with extreme poverty, environmental degradation, and risks due to climate change and natural disasters. As you may be aware, one of the most significant changes in the world is the rapid growth of the urban population. Africa is undergoing a pronounced and accelerated urban transition. A quarter of the world's 100 fastest growing cities and 3 of the world's mega cities of more than 10 million people or more are in Africa. Africa's entire urban population is predicted to quadruple in the next 50 years. These demographic changes will increase the urban population of the continent to more than 50% by the year 2035. With an estimated 230 million new residents arriving in African cities and towns over the next 10 years, urbanization is one of the most important forces influencing Africa's structural evolution. Kenya, just like many other developing countries in Africa, is characterized by rapid urbanization. It is estimated that 31.5% of Kenya's total population live in urban areas and cities. Kenya's fast urbanization has its inherent challenges, such as the proliferation of unplanned settlements or slums, inadequate access to essential services, and growing insecurity and increasing poverty and inequality. Your Excellency, in response to these urbanization difficulties, the Government of Kenya adopted the National Urban Growth Policy, which aims to offer a framework for sustainable urban growth in Kenya. This policy clearly identifies urban economy as one of the core pillars to sustainable urban development, in addition to urban management and urban core functions of planning, urban infrastructure, and disaster and risk management. In the same breath, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and the Urban Areas and Cities Act 2011, which was amended in the year 2019, obligates the devolved unit to classify urban areas and cities, as well as set up institutions for governance and management of urban areas and cities. To date, country governments have established over 90 municipalities across the 47 counties. Given that these institutions are still in their infancy, a lot needs to be done to support them realize their mandate. I wish to thank you and your government for initiating urban financing through the Kenya Urban Support Program and the Kenya Informal Settlements Improvement Program. Urban areas have experienced significant shifts because of these undertakings. I also wish to acknowledge and thank our partners, the World Bank, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, African Development Bank, French Development Bank, and the UN Habitat for the continued support towards strengthening the urban governance in the country. We now have the institutions and urban infrastructure in which we take pride of as a result of these efforts. As I conclude, Kenya's urban development financial shortfall remains enormous. The contribution of the national government and various donors to sub-national urban development efforts is limited, leaving a considerable annual shortfall that must be covered. Given the county's evolving demographic trends, these investments levels will need to rise. I urge you, Your Excellency, to consider creating a national urban fund to address this void. The Council of Governors will provide any support that may be required to strengthen the management of urban areas. Once again, I thank you for this opportunity and wish you fruitful deliberation as we deliberate on this substantive agenda. Signed by the Chairman, Anne Waiguru. Susan, if you don't mind, if you go to any urban area or to any city, you'll find a macrocosm of Kenya, the Kenya that we want to build. is not found so much in the rural areas, but in the cities and in the urban areas. So I think it is important, since the future is urban, to put effort to make sure that our cities are planned and developed in the context of the discussion we're going to have in this forum. And wearing my hat as governor of Siaya, just let me say this, since Susan also wore the hat of governor of Nakuru. Your Excellency, you remember I had a discussion with you, and subsequently I had a discussion with the Cabinet Secretary, my friend, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen. There are two pending businesses. You remember the two roads you're talking about, Your Excellency? And the rice mill, Your Excellency, that business is still unfinished, is unfinished business. So I was delighted to see Honorable Murkomen here. Homa Bay, the CIA is just next to Homa Bay. So next week, you don't need to take a plane. You can drive across from Elgeyo Marakwet. It's about 100 kilometers, and you'll be there. And Your Excellency, there's a very, very important lake in our region. It's the biggest oxbow lake in the continent. The dikes around the lake collapsed 2 weeks ago, and it led to a major disaster. And we are thinking of building an eco-city around this lake, Lake Anyaboli. It lost about 80% of its water volume, and the flooding affected even Busia more than it affected Siaya. So we are appealing particularly to the national government and to the UN agencies to save this oxbow lake, which is the biggest oxbow lake in the continent. And if I knock your door, please keep the door open. And if it is not very well open, I'll ask my friend Murkomen to make the right noises so that I can reach you. And the visit to Siaya, which we were supposed to make, and with Busia, I'm waiting anxiously. And bring Susan along, because I go a long way with his father. So if you come, we can twin Nakuru and Siaya. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much, Governor James Orengo. You are also a man I truly admire. Your Excellency, let me just have the members of the County Assembly of Nakuru stand up.